G'day, my name is Matt Smallbone. I'm a pastor in downtown Nashville. It's lovely to meet you. There's a few things you probably need to know about me before we start. First of all, I'm not faking this accent. I was born in Australia and became an American citizen in 2016. It's an honor to be a dual citizen of these amazing countries, though it has messed up my accent a bit. My mum thinks I sound very American these days. If you've already seen the Unsung Hero movie, you've met a ton of my family. Rebecca Smallbone, AKA Rebecca St. James, is my baby cousin. I am 19 days older than her, and we've always been very close. Beck is frustratingly good at everything she tries. She could always swim faster than me, and I always hated that. When we were 19 years old, she asked me to drop out of university for a bit and join her band for her All About God tour. I was the first bass player she ever toured with. We jumped off risers and rocked as hard as our little 19-year-old hearts could. They were such exciting times. I'd never been to the United States before, and man, I could not believe Walmart. What a magnificent place. You can buy groceries, Monopoly, and jeans while grabbing a sneaky pizza for lunch. I thought Walmart was a massive leap forward for humanity. So that makes me the big cousin to the rest of Beck's family too. Daniel, Ben, Joel and Luke of For King and Country fame, Josh and Libby. Beck's parents are Uncle Dave and Auntie Helen to me. Our grandpa used to call her Hell, which it's not a no-no word in Australia, but I've come to learn that it ruffles some feathers over here, so apologies. You met my grandpa in the film. Grandpa James is his stage name. I called him Grandpa Smallbone and his mates called him Jim. He's one of the greatest humans ever to walk the earth. Growing up, we all mostly lived within a couple of hours of Grandma and Grandpa Smallbone's place. They lived in a medium-sized Australian town called Toowoomba. Toowoomba's a couple of hours inland from the Pacific Ocean and it sits on top of a mountain. One of the funniest things ever is that Outback Steakhouse serves a meal called Toowoomba salmon. And as you can see in the photo, there's not a lot of salmon to be caught in Toowoomba. In fact, one time I asked our Outback server, Randy, if these salmon were caught fresh from the Toowoomba Ocean, and he was like, absolutely. Randy straight up lied to me. There's no Toowoomba Ocean, as Toowoomba was built on a swamp on the top of a mountain. You're better than that, Randy. All right, so that's a little bit about my family and where we're from. The first time I saw Unsung Hero, I was holding back tears the entire time, and so would you if your grandpa was being played by the guy from Lost. I was walking out of the cinema, I find myself thinking, why was that so moving? I mean, I knew the story already. There were no surprise endings, not for me at least. That is exactly how it played out. Eventually, it occurred to me that the beauty and power of the film was that it plugged into a number of themes that define humanity at our absolute best. There's a family on the brink of financial ruin who refuse to let that pressure tear them apart. There's a lot of hard work and persistence that eventually paid off. There was rock solid faith in the midst of confusion. There's vulnerability between a husband and a wife. There's vulnerability between parents and their kiddos. There's forgiveness when it's not deserved. And there were people from the community who dug in and loved this poor immigrant family who had no money, furniture, or meaningful employment. The Smallbones were at the bottom of culture, broke, with no reliable transport, and people loved them generously, understanding that they couldn't give them anything in return. It's this last point that I want to focus on in this and future episodes. I'm really interested in the question, what does it look like for humans to really care for each other? Or another way to think about it is this, what are my ethics regarding how I treat other people? Jesus brings a lot of clarity to these questions in his Sermon on the Mount. In fact, he distills it down to one mind-blowing statement. In Matthew 7:12, he says this, "So in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you, for this sums up the law and the prophets." Matthew 7:12 gives us the clearest thinking you'll ever hear from a master teacher on how people should treat each other. Matthew 7:12 has been described as the Mount Everest of human ethics. So, guys, here's the plan. We're going to take a deep dive into this text over the coming episodes. We'll dig into context, language, some ancient rabbinical teachings, and some beautiful but complicated theology. And my prayer for all of us is that we'll have ears to hear what Jesus is saying to us. But be warned, if we fully grasp what is being suggested by Jesus here, so much about how we interact with other people will need to change. It will take work and repetition, but the outcome will be worth it. You'll get a life filled with surprising moments of joy and beauty. A life lived in good standing with people, even people that you disagree with on important things. A life surrounded by people who trust you and love you and leverage for you, even on your worst days. Now, at the end of every episode, I'm going to give you some homework because the truth is, knowing stuff about Jesus is kind of meaningless if we don't integrate what we learn about Jesus into our lives. Listen, some of the worst people I know tons about Jesus. How can this be? How can people sit in church for decades and be cranky and mean? Well, I actually think it's pretty simple. They've never allowed the teachings of Jesus to change their hearts and behaviors. Their relationship with Jesus is purely in their head. Now, I don't want that to happen to me or you, so let's just commit to taking the right next step every episode as we embark on this journey together. To that end, I have some questions that I want you to think through for a while. Question 1 is this: how do I typically treat people that I love? Question 2, how do I typically treat people that have hurt me? Question 3, how do I typically treat people that have been kind to me? Question 4, how do I typically treat people that have made decisions that I disagree with? And question 5, how do I typically treat people that think differently about important things? Now, if you're like me, it's possible that you struggled a lot with answering these questions honestly. Part of the problem is that the social sciences have discovered that humans have 3.4 blind spots each. That's a humbling stat, isn't it? It means that my friends can tell you 3.4 uncomfortable and difficult things about me. 3.4 things that make me a complicated husband. 3.4 things that make me a challenging dad. 3.4 things that hurt my relationships. 3.4 things that make me a difficult employee. 3.4 things about me that are obvious to everybody else and invisible to me. It turns out that one thing that is true for all humans is that honest self-evaluation is hard for us. So quite often we need our communities to speak truth to us. And as noted in Proverbs 27, faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. The most important friendships that you have tell you the truth in a posture of love, even if it hurts and it's not pleasant all the time. So here's my challenge for you as we launch into this series. Maybe you could ask a trusted friend to help you see any blind spots in how you treat other people. That would be a really brave thing to do and a great starting point for this teaching series. It might actually be the most important spiritual work that you do this decade. It would be the work of an unsung hero. Love you guys.